Hey everyone, Donut here. Wait, hold on. No, that didn't sound right. Hey guys, Mikey Mo. So, from my last video, I asked if you guys wanted to see me do some breakdowns, and y'all said yes. All right, so this is going to be my first one, little attempt at it, so bear with me moving forward. Today, we are going to do a breakdown of a shooting of a DUI driver out of Greenwood, Indiana. To talk about the good, the bad, and as always, I want to hear what you guys have to think about this situation. With that being said, let's get right into it. All right, guys, so on March 29th, 2022 at 11:15, the 911 dispatchers for Greenwood, Indiana received a call about a wrong way driver going down the highway.
So are you going northbound on Madison?
Yes, I'm going northbound on Madison. I'm just now about to hit County Line.
Okay.
The vehicle was able to be located a short time later by officers, and they attempted a traffic stop on it, at which time the driver, who was later identified as 49-year-old Monica Vaught, decided to run from the police on this night, and a pursuit ensued. Now, right here in the beginning, they've obviously tried to pull her over. She's refusing to stop. She loops through a couple streets, through a parking lot, back around, and runs into a telephone pole. Her car gets wedged in between the pole and the wire briefly while they give her verbal commands, and she does not comply with any of them.
Move over here, move over
The officer goes ahead and repositions here, which was smart on him because you're starting to get in a little bit of a crossfire situation with the other units being directly across from them. She decides she's not having any more of this, throws it in reverse, and goes ahead and takes on off out of the area. Takes the officers a minute, but they jump back in their car, and the pursuit begins again. Ms. Vaught continues to drive around. She loops around through another parking lot, down and around the way, and ultimately ends up cutting through the fire department parking lot, which, you know, no respect these guys have. Lights and sirens. I mean, they probably woke all of these firefighters up. They were all taking a nap. It's just after dinner, so, you know, that's going to be one of the bad things I'm going to point out in this video. The police had no respect for the firemen who are asleep right now, and I just, you know, I don't have any tolerance for that. All right, we've left the fire station parking lot, and we are back out on the road. All right, so we follow Ms. Vaught here a little bit further. She loops around, heads back out on one of the main roadways, and comes around and ends up turning into none other but the parking lot of the police station. You'll hear here in a minute, even the officers see where she's going, and they even say, like, is she really going to the police department? And then one of them, like, sees that she does. So they end up pulling in and following her into the police department parking lot. Now, the footage right now that I'm going to show you is actually from a parking lot camera that captured the whole event, and it gives you a little bit more of a wide-angle view of what occurred as everybody pulled into the parking lot here. So right here is where she makes her first aggressive move. She stops, but then backs into one of the patrolman's cars, which is Officer Louison's.
Get out of the fucking car! She just rammed me, she just rammed me.
Now, right here at this point, she loops through the parking lot, kind of stops, catty corner in a couple parking spots, and just sits there for a minute. You're going to see here in a minute, she ultimately loops around and then runs into the SUV that's parked there. But you have guys running up on her in all different directions at this point, and you'll even hear in the audio where they're calling out, watch your crossfire, watch your crossfire. So that's one of the good things about their tactics so far, is at least they are aware of that situation. In these high stressful encounters, you run into a lot of situations where everybody just wants to crowd over, everybody points their gun, and if you were to look back on the picture, you have everybody's pointing their guns at each other like in a giant circle. So at least they're aware of that danger. Now, getting into this area is probably where I start to have my biggest complaints about everything that went on. She's in a fairly confined area. You have multiple units there, and you finally just now have Officer Hennig get in his car to loop around, and they're going to box her in. This could have already been done. This could have been done the second she went in. Now, right here, they have a decent plan, but they did not execute it properly. If you look at the cruiser in the back there, it is not touching the suspect vehicle. That was one of their biggest mistakes, and you're going to see here in a little bit how that little bit of a gap allows this woman to escape from this situation. At this point, she's already wrecking cruisers. They have cruisers that are damaged. The idea is to stop this threat. Use your car, pinch that vehicle, run into it. You don't have to slam into it, but touch it. The cars need to be touching. You want to have good surface areas of that car to be pinned in. That way it cannot just back up and wiggle its way out. Right here, they put spike strips under the wheels of the car, which is obviously a good thing in case she does weasel out of the situation, which you'll see here in a minute she does. It at least flattens the tires of the car, which would hopefully avoid a longer high-speed pursuit out on a roadway. So right here, that amount of gap that she has, that she is able to back up, push the one cruiser, pull forward, and then back up again, she has more than enough room to maneuver her car and pull right out of that situation. If they had actually pinched her car in bumper to bumper, that would have been much less likely, if not impossible, for that car to get out. Once you have that little bit of movement, you have the ramming power to bump the other car out of the way, which creates more room, and now she just maneuvers out of that spot and is able to take off into the parking lot. Now at this point, Officer Luzon and Officer Allen are giving her verbal commands. They have their weapons drawn. They're at a relatively safe distance, but as she's moving around, it takes nothing for her to cut that wheel like she just does, and they end up taking shots. Now, the most amazing part to me about this video so far is none of those shots actually wounded her or wounded her to the extent that she could no longer drive the vehicle. This continues on in the parking lot now for a whole nother round.
If she gets it, watch out.
So now at this point, she loops back around and actually has some run-up speed and starts driving straight at the officers. Now, this last clip is going to be from Officer Hennig's body camera. This is the final shots that ended up ending the threat of the situation. And I never like to Monday morning quarterback stuff like this too much, but I have to admit, out of everything that's going on in this situation, I don't know how great I feel about this shot being taken. He's behind cover there. The car's not driving directly at him anymore, and he's almost coming up from behind. These last couple shots do end up stopping the threat. The lady is unable to survive the wounds at this point, and she is pronounced deceased at the scene. Now right here is a little bit of a breakdown of what the car did after the second round, after she escapes and then comes around before the final shots are fired. Inside the car, they did find 2 small knives, a kitchen knife and another pretty basic hunting knife looking thing, nothing of real threat. However, after everything was done, the toxicology tests were performed, and it was determined that she had high levels of methamphetamine in her system, and she also tested positive for cannabinoids. Now, like all police shootings, a separate and independent investigation was conducted by the Greenwood Police Department. It also conducted a review of their use of force boards to evaluate whether it was compliance or not, and the Johnson County Prosecutor's Office also independently reviewed this matter. All right, you guys, so that's the breakdown. I want to know, what do you guys think about this situation? Like I said, something like this is developing so quickly. You're having to make decisions in split-second time, and it's always easy for somebody to sit back, watch a video like this, rewind it, start it, rewind it, and critique it. And it's tough because on one hand, you learn valuable lessons from it. On the other hand, you tend to scrutinize people who were doing the best that they could do with the resources and information they had at the time to make the decisions that they made. Now, in this case, the shooting is ruled justified given the level of force that was used. A car is considered a deadly weapon. She is actively driving at officers, so they met all compliance as far as that goes. You do have to wonder at the end of the day, if things had been done a little bit differently, could we have afforded the opportunity to save this woman's life and not have it end in a shooting? Now, the flip side of that to me is, as much as I'd like to think that that's a possibility, and it could be in certain cases, you can't run around second guessing every decision you make when the actual person needs to be held responsible for the decisions that they made. She put herself in this situation. She chose to use drugs and go out in her car and drive around in an altered state or whatever was going on with her to do all of these things. She had ample opportunity to stop, to listen to the commands, to get out. she essentially forced their hand at the situation. So a large portion of this does need to be put back on the person before we go and try and throw the police under the bus and say that everything was their fault of whether they did or did not do something appropriately. All right, guys, this one was probably a little clunky. Like I said, it was my first one. I'd like to keep doing these. If you guys have videos that you want to see broken down, feel free to send them to me. I have all my links in the show notes below. You can send them to my Instagram. You can send me a link there. My business email is in there. You can email it as well there. If you have any videos you want me to break down, feel free to send them to me and I'll add them to the list, and I'll try and get a few of these out as I get videos that come in that I feel are worthwhile breaking down. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for bearing with me. Until the next video, I want you guys to take really good care of yourselves and stay safe out there.